spinny thing.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, and welcome to another Band Batch
Good morning.
music and sound chat. Today we're going to be talking about Andor episode 4, not episodes 4 as it says up here. Let me just change that. Episode 4. We're going to be talking about the music and sound of episode 4, season 1. Oh, I have the YouTube tab open. My bad. All right. I don't know if you could hear that. But anyway, what a great start. So Andor season 1, episode 4. There's quite a bit to talk about, and we're definitely going to make sure to touch upon to focus a lot of time today on sound design, since we didn't get too deep into that last week. Are you all ready?
Ready.
Heck yeah.
Okay, a little bit of housekeeping really quick. In chat, it would be very helpful if you sense that if you can hear one of our sound levels is too quiet or too loud, or our balance is off, can you please let us know? Because it's hard for me monitoring everyone to be able to tell real time what the sound levels are. So it'll be easy if you can just let me know in the chat if anything should be tweaked. Thanks.
We promise we're actually professionals in real life, but when we're here, anything goes.
Yeah. And last week I felt a little bit bad because James was a little bit quiet and I didn't notice until after the stream was over and I watched some of it. Yeah. So I'm sorry, James, for silencing you.
Oh, I'm good. I was so.
So
hurt.
we're looking for an intern.
Yeah, if anybody wants to
remotely mix
run
this.
sound for the band batch, we got an open square right there up top left. That's all you running the boards. So.
Yeah. Okay, so hey, K-pop Times, good to see you. Hey, Jonah, good to see you.
Woo!
Yeah, K-pop Times commented on our last stream, basically they got the joke. This thing, like. And I was like, that is a deep cut from our very second stream.
Yeah, and just so anyone that missed the stream last week, we were comparing the lighthearted theme in the episode 1 of Andor, that opens us to B2EO, right? Is that what the droid's name is? B2EO?
Something like that.
And
B2 emo.
yeah. And B2 emo. And you're comparing that lighthearted theme to the one from Bad Batch. I went back and rewatched that episode. It's even sillier than you remember. It's like
I went back to it too.
I was like,
You're talking
I was
about
like, I don't
Bad Batch
remember
episode 2.
Bad Batch episode 2 cut and run when Omega goes out and plays with Cut's kids, right?
Yeah.
And it's even sillier than you remember. It's like zanier. There's like xylophone going on in it. I was like, how did this get past the first round of of this temp score,
Well, it
It's
does
like,
does kind of emphasize like the difference in tone between like that show being sort of an extremely different thing from Andor, and the tone of Andor being much more realistic and
much more realistic.
Yeah.
And continuing on that trend this week for sure. So
Yes. So we are here to talk about Andor today, and there's not very much silliness in the music, at least not to that extent. Casino Skunk Productions, Ralph says, I haven't been paying too much attention to the sound design, but the score is making me so happy. Yeah, the score, yeah. And last week we
Really
focused
enjoying
mostly
the
on the score because it's like almost easy to overlook the sound design when the score is so good, but the score and sound design really work in harmony in this whole soundtrack as a whole. So, yes. Any other thoughts people have before we jump into it? All right.
well, just a shout out to Xanthe. Xanthe got a shout out, a reply from Rogue One composer Michael Giacchino, basically seconding that exact thought, which is that he believes that the the score to Andor is great too, but also gave
Yeah.
Star Wars Music Minute a little nod from the
Yeah.
composer of Rogue One. So
Yeah. I mean, it's
we
probably
see
due
you, Michael.
Yeah, that was cool. Well, it was cool not only because of that, and by the way, I should mention that Michael Giacchino is a friend of Casino Skunk Productions, who also has a live action Star Wars YouTube channel, and Cue the
Oh,
Music, I think
cool.
it's called. And so I know that he's done a recent interview of him on
Oh,
his channel.
great.
So
Awesome.
anyway, yeah. So if he saw my tweet due to Twitter recommending tweets from friends of people, like, then yeah, that's cool. Thank you for the people, the people who mutually follow us who may have gotten that tweet on his radar.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is cool that, like, that tweet sort of made me smile, because I think it would be very easy for a composer to either not want to engage with like someone else. I don't know, especially being in Star Wars. Like, I feel like once you've
Yeah.
dipped your toe in, it can be hard to, like, really want to give a chance to the next thing. Like, I feel like once your thing is over, you're kind of, I don't know. It can be hard to give compliments sometimes. And this felt extremely genuine. And I think it goes to show, you how Michael Giacchino is, first and foremost, he is a Star Wars fan. Like, he's not just someone who scored Star Wars. Like, that's sort of like a second thing that happened to him. Like, the whole point is that he's really been like a huge Star Wars fan his whole life. So, yeah. Anyway.
And especially it's the same characters. It's like the same, almost the same team that made the movie he worked on. So it's especially, what's the word? Good vibes maybe is the easiest way to put
Yeah.
it. It's especially good vibes because it's like, not only is it the same franchise, but it's like the same essential, like, it's Andor,
Yeah,
So
I
it's
can
very
imagine
cool to
being
see that
protective
support.
over your characters.
For sure.
Yeah.
And a totally, I mean, this score is a totally different approach to Rogue, like completely different approach.
Yeah, yeah.
So, hey, by the way, I just want to throw it out there, y'all. I'm wearing official Star Wars Music Minute merch.
It's not official.
If you want Xanthe to produce some and you want to buy some, Xanthe is absolutely open to running a merch store for
I actually
this
have.
channel.
Okay, I have a merch shop actually. It's been a soft launch because all I have on there is a sticker at the moment. But there
Okay.
is merch in the works. There genuinely is merch in the works. It's just, you could go to it. It's a Redbubble. It's a like Redbubble SW Music Minute.
Ooh.
But literally, there's only one sticker for $1.72. That's the only thing.
If
that's
you
for
want
sale.
Xanthe to make T-shirts and just spend their time like making lots and lots of different types of merch, just let them know and they'll be happy to make that part of their full-time thing here.
Thank you. All right. So Andor episode 4. You know what? Let's give Justin the floor first, since this is your time to shine with sound design. Do you have anything that you want to?
My time to shine with sound design. I don't know what you're talking about. Well, the only
Time
reason
to
you're
shine
saying
with
that is
sound
because
design.
there was like no music in this episode. And I'm being obviously exaggerating, like
Yeah.
extremely exaggerating here. But this whole episode, even with the sound design, everything was just so sparse in this episode. I remember like reaching the first time watching this episode, reaching the end, and was like, "Oh yeah, there's music." It was just so like underscored, or it was so like small, really like intricate moments that other things just kind of like, I don't know, took charge and stuff like that. But even with the sound design, going through looking for sound effects and stuff like that, there was just really minimal, just nicely done minimal stuff. But the first sound I at least want to talk about, I didn't get a chance to recreate it. It was a little too complicated, but I took a picture of a sonogram, which points out the energy of various frequencies in a sound. So that's the shape of the sound. Do you want to guess what that is? I know it's hard, just looking at something, right?
Okay.
Let me make
It's in
it
the
bigger.
very beginning of the episode.
Very beginning. Ooh, look at our little bubbles.
Look at that.
It's coming. I know you can't even see it. Don't worry. I'm not trying to gaslight you all. Don't you see it?
It's
Okay.
there.
Okay. All right, everybody. We're trying to guess, and the chat can help us out too. We're trying to guess what this sonogram, what sound
Is telling us.
effect
And if you
this
don't
is.
know how to read a
Yeah, I was going to say,
sonogram,
let's narrate how
what
to
we're
read it.
looking at, so let's think of it like a graph. There's a y-axis and a x-axis. From left to right, we have time. So it's just going forward in time, couple seconds here. It's not very long. And vertically, we have frequencies. So from the very, very bottom, the lowest end of our hearing range, around 20 hertz, and all the way up on top, stuff that we can't even notice, up in like the 40,000 hertz and above. And the colors represent the amount of energy or how loud certain frequencies
How
are
loud it
across
is.
time. So,
I see.
yeah, so red would
So
be the loudest.
Right.
Yeah, and black would
So
to
red
blue.
is loud and blue and cooler, right? So color is loud. I'm gonna say this in the dumb terms.
Yeah.
Color is loud, and how high you are, like how closer to the top you are of the graph, is how high the pitch is, right? So right?
Yeah.
Is that
Exactly.
Am I getting that right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
okay,
Yep.
can we ask you some questions, Justin?
Absolutely.
So what is the unit, because spectrograms can have, different sort of scales in terms of, so what, at this point where the green sort of is, I wish I could point, where the dense green thing kind of just like dissipates, where that kind of horizontal line is, at what frequency is that? Roughly.
I can look real quick.
Okay.
That is around 15,000 hertz.
Okay, so
That is
pretty
around
high.
15,000. So it's a
Pretty
little
high.
bit logarithmic.
Okay.
And what would
In
that be
the,
like? What would that liken to? Like, what would a sound that would be around the range for?
Like in the 15,000 range. We're talking high wind, perhaps.
High
like a
wind.
up there. And then it gets to the
That
part
kinda
where we
thing.
just can't hear anymore. We're all the way down at the middle of that green section. So like a quarter of the way down. That would be around the 5,000 range, which is pretty high, actually, to our ears. If we think of want to relate it to music real quick, A440, right? Musicians out there will know this almost by heart. Exactly, A440. And what we mean by that is that 440 hertz of the frequency is what we measure that note, A, to, is what we measure it to. And then we kind of base all of our tuning off of it. 440 on this graph is all the way at the bottom, basically. Almost all the way at the bottom. So this is a lot of high sound, a lot of energy that makes up things. And it's wild to think that sometimes a sound can be so complex that certain things stick out more, but other things exist in that sound. Right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Up
We
here.
can see.
Okay, so how long is this whole sound? Like, is this like 1 second, half a second?
This whole
Good
sound
question.
is about. I can double check that for you.
Because if I kind of followed along and I did it at a slow pace, it would
It's
sound
about
something-
6 seconds. Yeah, exactly. It's about 6 seconds.
Oh, okay. This whole thing is 6 seconds. Okay.
Oh,
okay.
wow.
That's
Okay, so
longer
it's
than I
long.
expected.
So it's like, I was thinking it was like,
So it takes a little bit.
okay.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
if we follow
And you
this
can-
along,
Well, okay. I want to zone in on. Okay, it's helpful to know that 6 seconds, because here, where this blue stuff is up here, you can see some like pulsing. Right. And so that's at a pretty regular interval. It kind of looks like ribbing or something. And so so it's something like very but high, happening.
And when you see, and if this helps too, when you see large spikes, kind of like we see these 3 large spikes in the sound, think of that's all frequencies. Like that's all of those frequencies happening around the same time. which could be a very noisy effect in a way.
Interesting.
Because
I-
something like a cymbal or metal clashing together, or something like more percussive, might contain more of a white noise spectrum. And
Tell
then
us
when
what
you
it
see
is.
streaks,
Well, I have a guess. Should we,
stuff-
Xanthe, you and I should make
you
a
haven't
guess
even
real
guessed
quick.
yet.
Okay.
You have a guess, Xanthe, or I can go?
You can go.
By the way, it says episode 1 and 3 on the middle of it.
And I will play the sound effect because I couldn't recreate it. I will play the sound effect.
I think that is it jumping into hyperspace?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Hey!
Nice.
So check it out. Check it out. We have, and I'll play. I isolated the sound effect because I couldn't recreate it this round, but I'll play it so you can kind of watch it for those that are watching, and we'll watch it later.
Okay.
We have these 3 big clanks, which are these spikes happening, and then what's really cool is you kind of see these downwards and upwards streaks of red. Those are more definitive tones when you look at something, and the overtones within them popping out, which is a lot of fun. So here's the sound, and hopefully this won't be too crazy.
Oh, so those are those.
That's the sound itself. I'll play it again.
Okay.
I did just a little bit louder.
Ah. Yeah, you can see where it starts to blast off.
And you see the streaks going downwards. You get the kind of a thing. You get the rise up, and then those 3 giant clanks of the engine kind of doing its thing.
Wow.
Very
when you
cool.
look at sound, just from listening at it, kind of a thing. I was tried so hard to recreate this sound, and it threw me in a loop because there's so much in there. So when I threw it into the sonogram, just okay, what can I get out of the information here? I was like, yeah, there's no way. There's so complex of a sound here, but just looking at it is pretty darn cool. And shows you how much really goes into creating a Star Wars, or really any sound, but a complicated engine spaceship blast off into hyperspace with stuff flying by and things like that. Kind of cool. Kind of cool to see that in
So
action
cool.
and hear it, you know?
Yeah, that is really cool.
How do you make a sound like that? I never thought about that. How does the hyperspace sound where do they get that from, you know?
It's so many different things. I went into some research too. I went into the original Millennium Falcon hyperdrive sounds and stuff like that. I watched a few interviews with Ben Burt, and just the engine sound was he took this and that, and this was a motor turning on, and this was an airstream. I think he said of a dentist airstream kind of a thing in the background, and then this is
cool.
a thing. It was 6 different sounds for the hyperdrive breaking down, and he just mixed it all in. So it was really a combination of layering actual acoustic sounds or pre-recorded sounds. There wasn't a whole lot of synthesis involved. Now for this sound, it's very different than some of the other hyperdrive sounds that we've seen, but still very similar in the way of it kind of blasting off. So we're talking jet engines, perhaps filtered jet engines, and a couple other things. And I got another really cool layered sound that I'm going to play for you later that I did recreate. And I'll play for you these separated samples and then what I did to them to create the sound itself.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Which is a lot of fun.
One thing.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you said. I know I cut you off. You said it was a lot of fun, and
It was a lot of fun, and I think I was going to say super nerdy, and you'll see why.
okay, cool.
I earned a Star Wars nerd point for this. I'm awarding
good.
myself a Star Wars nerd point for this sound.
Those are high value. So one thing that I wanted to talk about with regard to the hyperspace moment is after the initial like onset of jumping to hyperspace, it was so quiet. It was so quiet. It was just like almost eerie to just see them standing on the ship and see hyperspace like through the, front window or whatever, the cockpit,
Right.
and just seeing how fast they're moving. And not only was there no like, I don't know, like I don't know what hyperspace, they could sometimes they like dramatize what it sounds like to be traveling through hyperspace,
Right.
and musically as well, like just no music and no sound, just casually traveling through hyperspace and seeing that all in the background while they're talking. I thought that was a very made for a very interesting scene setup.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
kind of just
and
get
it's
that
almost
ambient kind of airplane inside of airplane cockpit sound, but
yeah.
rushing wind, or I guess no wind in space, I suppose, but rushing things past is kind of cool.
I was getting like anxious, being like, "Oh, make sure you're watching where you're going. Like, you're having a conversation." But I'm like, "It's Star Wars. Like, it's autopilot. It's fine." But
I thought the same thing when Luthen turned around. I was like, wait, you just gonna abandon the pilot seat in the middle of hyperspace? Yeah, we're good. We'll get there.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
That was funny. And then
Sorry.
I like how I was actually just about to bring up that robot that's on the
Great.
ship, which you just kind of that was a nice segue. What's that robot's name? Anyone catch the name? Is there
Not
a name?
B?
The ship robot?
Oh,
The three
the
kind
droid
of
mod or whatever?
cameras.
Like the Fondor droid
it's
mod?
Like a three. Yeah, it's like a three-pronged
I think
like ship droid.
the
Yeah.
captions said Fondor droid mod or something, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so yeah, because Andor seemed like surprised by something with the ship. It's like I never seen this ship do that before. What was was it just going to hyperspace, or it was just like kicking in? I wasn't really clear on like what Andor was surprised by. Did anyone catch that?
Yeah, I think it was the hyperspace. I think he was
Okay.
saying like, I don't think I've ever seen this ship do that, like jump into hyperspace so
Interesting.
quick. And I'm sure maybe it's kind of because I guess it kind of makes sense if Fondor droid modification. It's
Yeah.
a highly modified freighter of some kind. The cockpit reminds me of the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. And Jonah thought the droid
The
was a
three-eyed
gun.
droid was a gun.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of it. You know what? That's what it reminds me of. I used to have a Nerf gun that looked just like that. Like it had like a 3, and it would rotate and go pew 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 pew. You know. Let's see if I can find a picture of it. But yeah, I think that tells us a little bit about something about what's his name? What's Skarsgård's character? I keep calling him
Luthen?
just Skarsgård. Luthen, right?
Skarsgård.
I think that tells you like he's modified his ship to do something it probably shouldn't, so that he can kind of do things that that he shouldn't be able to do, right? And he's kind of keeping up a front with that ship that he has. Maybe that ship isn't. He's like kind of maybe that I don't know much about that ship, but maybe that ship is supposed to be more of like a diplomatic kind of like ambassadorship, but he's got it like modded so that he can like escape in a yeah, right? You see what I'm saying? Yeah, he's kind of got it modded so he can do some things and get out of maybe a tricky situation if he needs to. But maybe that ship's not supposed to be able to do that, right? So I thought that was kind of an interesting little character building moment. So
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially as we're learning that he's some leader of some kind for this underground movement or major player. Here's a ship that looks like this but shouldn't be able to do it. It's like a hiding thing, I guess, or it's like don't suspect us, we're just a freighter.
I really like the sense of duality with his character. It's really cool.
It's very cool. It's like one of the highlights, definitely.
Yeah.
Do you recognize? Obviously, you do,
Yes.
but it comes in many iterations in this.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's like a reverse Picardy third. It goes major, minor.
Boom, boom. Yeah, I really like that. Can I jump in
Yeah.
with something real quick?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to see if you know where this moment is from, and it kind of utilizes this. It's probably my favorite cue in this show so far. Let's see if I kind of transcribed it, so bear with me here. So. And it's like. It's something like. It's a really pretty moment.
If there were a few more suspensions in that, then I would think it's when Luthen's trying on his disguise.
Oh, it is. I'm playing
Okay.
some of the notes and not all of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that scene. And I really love this. It goes from, we've got this minor feeling, a minor C sharp, but it utilizes that major sixth. This note right here, right? Which gives it that interesting lighthearted feel. So we've got, and then, right? And it's doing kind of the same thing that the Andor theme does.
Yeah, similar.
And then it goes into and kind of utilizes it. But then this in the later on changes to. So it uses this note instead of that note. So I love this score. And what's really interesting, this little moment right here, this right? Does anyone recognize that little? And it's specifically these scale notes. Does anyone know where that where else in this show that happens?
Can you do that again?
It's like a drone underneath, and then.
Well, there were many of those moments where like a drone would open up into something more. Feel like that was sort of.
Yeah, but I'm thinking specifically like this to here. Specifically that movement with those scale degrees and that harmony.
In a previous episode, you're saying?
Yep.
Oh, in a previous episode.
Yep.
Is this in the third episode where Luthen and Andor are talking and he's trying to convince him to?
So let me be clear in that I think the answer is going to be maybe to any of the answers that I'm not thinking of because I didn't go and watch every other episode, but I'm actually thinking of a very specific spot.
Okay.
And I should say that it's a very significant spot in the show. All right, do you want me to just tell you?
Yeah.
It's the very first scene of the show. So
there we go. Okay.
As Andor is walking across that bridge in the rain, we get that Blade Runner thing, and we get the synths going, but it's actually an E minor this time, and it's actually goes right.
Oh, right.
Right, And that's
Yes,
and
yes,
it,
yes,
it's got
yes.
this interesting synthy thing, but it actually starts with the minor six. It starts like this, actually. And then it goes to. And that's the first episode of the show. So when I heard this in this moment, I was immediately reminded when I heard that first theme, because it was just such a, it's kind of an eerie, but like strangely, it's like a very, we talked about this, that the sound of the show is very mysterious, you know? And so anyway, when I heard this moment with Luthen, I was like, huh, that reminds me of that moment from the very first. So I'm wondering, and it's kind of interesting where Andor is in that scene is preparing, he's walking across the bridge and are about ready to go into the brothel and basically kind of put on a mask in some ways.
Yeah.
To get the information that he needs, and that's exactly what Luthen is doing in this scene too, with this little theme too. So I thought those parallels were kind of interesting. And it's really, yeah, I think the mode of the show is Dorian. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, there's so many little Dorian moments in this show. So, and specifically everybody that, you know, I know that some folks are like, hey, when you drop terms like that, let us know what that means. A Dorian scale is a minor scale. A minor scale sounds like this normally. A natural minor scale. But if I take the sixth note and bring it up one note on a keyboard, it becomes a Dorian scale. Right, that's the famous song in Dorian, which is Scarborough Fair, right? All right, anyway, so that's what I wanted to bring up. I really loved this little string part. I think it's a beautifully scored moment.
I think the like suspensions in there were very like there was a lot of I mean, I should go back and I'll go back and listen to it later so I don't like butcher it right now in case it comes up again later. But there were a lot of like falling lines that sort of as he was like turning around and I don't know, just getting into this sort of more gregarious disguise. There's like it's tinged with like the sadness of just having this is what he has to do. You know, like he's doing he's putting on his, you know, he's practicing his moves and everything. And the music is very melancholy, you know.
Yeah.
I get it. It's like me when I am preparing to go out or something and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll put on the extroverted self. Kind of sad about it, but yeah.
His personality is so different when he's putting on that show than his normal personality, you know? It's just like, it's jarring when he like makes that smile into the mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of painful smile, like, here I am. I gotta fit myself back into this mold real quick, and just he feels so exhausted and defeated, right? Like the moment after it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something. So Jonah says that's Luthen's theme, and I think we're saying that perhaps it's not specific enough to necessarily be Luthen's theme yet.
Yeah,
But
I
I
don't
think
know.
it's. But I think that's fine because I mean, there's another bit of music that came up that happened in two very different places. So I'll play some and see if it rings a bell because the first time I heard it, I was like, okay, maybe that's a theme for that. And then I heard it with a completely different character, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe not. And maybe it just, you know, we're so used to, as Star Wars fans, like mapping something to like a theme, a character, or whatever.
Right.
But it's not
Sure.
always, that's not always, okay. These are old school paper notes. So let me open up my notebook to this. Okay. I have this toy piano, so it's,
Oh,
the
yeah.
keys are so small. Actually, I should be changing the chords more, but I just don't have enough keys. Let's see. 2, 3. But it's this very, okay, so there's a low bass happening like this, and then there's a very high pitched like thing like that. So tell me if you see any comments. And then it goes on top of that. There's something going, dee dee, and then at one point, at least one of the times, it kind of transitions to something else. And then it kind of goes. Sort of this harmonic, melodic minor scale type of thing with this F minor, E augmented. Anyway, leitmotif is so associated with Star Wars that you're probably looking for it everywhere. Yeah, exactly.
Always, yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
Jonah, the low bass has been in a lot of serial scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I was gonna bring that up today. It's, you know what it sounds like? I don't know, Xanthe, if you've got your violin with you.
Yeah.
I'm
ready.
You know what? His Cyril has this interesting sound. That reminds me of tapping on the bridge with con legno, on the bridge of a contrabass. But I'm wondering what that would sound.
Con legno means with the
tapping
stick.
Okay.
Tapping
with a stick on
the bridge specifically.
Bridge.
Why on the bridge?
Specifically, because it's got that overtony bridge sound of a contrabass that it sounds like.
Oh, right. So it wouldn't really translate on the violin because the violin's too small.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if I could if you could give us a little bit of that real quick, just to see like what would that sound like on your instrument?
Not much. Like that's never a thing. Like violinists are pretty much never called to do col legno on the bridge because it's
it's so small.
It's not very resonant, you know.
Right. But yeah, it sounds like that deep, plucky sound.
Yeah, but you would do it on the string. Not on
but the bridge of a contrabass, that's what it sounds like to me. It's probably not, but it sounds like, I remember playing a piece by Lou Harrison where I had to play on the bridge of a bass with triangle beaters.
Oh wow.
And that sound reminds me so much of that sound. It's like this dum dum, like this low overtony, weird, bassy sound, and I heard that sound every time Cyril is on screen, which is really interesting.
So Jonah, you are totally right that is
Justin.
the first time that we hear that.
Yeah, I was gonna agree with you, James. It sounds like I was just kind of imagining like knocking on a big hunk of reverberating wood. But that's basically what
that's basically what a bass bridge is.
You know, a giant, massive violin in a way. You know, just knocking on a big hollow piece of wood. So that's I wonder if that's what they did. Put a mic inside.
So similar to
perhaps inside of a contrabass and gave it a couple good knocks.
And of course, the easy answer is probably samples.
Right.
It's probably.
Oh, don't ruin it.
It doesn't ruin it.
Don't ruin it. Let us speculate. It's always samples.
But Earth Jocko. I have
Samples
done
and
that
reverb, that's all you
autocorrect
need.
before. So the percussive nature of Andor in general is so great and refreshing, says Chaco. And I totally agree. We definitely talked about that last week as well with the timekeeper, or whatever his name is, you know, the hammering.
The work bell.
The work bell, whatever that was called. And okay, so back to this little theme. So we have the sort of low bassy thing, which pops up quite throughout the episode. Like, I don't know if it's it's one of those things where maybe it's just part of Nick Bertel's like musical language that we'll just see throughout, and it doesn't need to be associated with anyone in particular. It's a sort of sonic pattern that he has where he'll often do very similar chord progressions, like very similar sort of bass note, little bass note, leading bass note things, a very simple pattern, sort of repeated with a very high pitched sort of melody, but it's almost like it's a casual melody, it's not, I don't even know if it would be a melody like this thing. It's like, so it's so soft. It's not like, look at me, I'm the melody. It's the type of thing where it's like in the background and you might not even notice that it's part of the episode at all. Like it's so soft and it's just part of a whole, honestly, at one point when I was watching Cyril go down the elevator, I'm like, Cyril's our sad lo-fi boy, because there's a little bit of like detuning to his, I can't do it with my voice, but if you go back and listen to that spot, you hear a little bit of the like lo-fi aesthetic with Cyril when he's going down the elevator.
Yeah.
And again, that's not unique to Cyril. I don't think it's like, Cyril to me is going to be my sad lo-fi boy for sure. But
Yeah, he definitely is.
he definitely is. But especially when he's like going down the elevator by the window. However, we hear that detuned thing kind of in bits and pieces throughout. It's a graininess that is part of the aesthetic of the overall score.
I agree with Jonah, what Jonah just said. I was really tracking that sound to Cyril as a character.
Same.
And I just want to throw this out here. So is the cue you're talking about with the falling melody, Xanthe, is there a similar one that's in like C sharp minor that basically goes like this?
It might be
Something
part
like
of the
that?
same, because maybe it's part of the same thing.
Might be, right?
Because there is another one. No.
Yeah. So, and that part I tracked with the many conversations that Dedra is having with
I
like
love
people that
Dedra.
are. Yeah, she's great. She's a great character.
Yeah. Okay, we should talk about Dedra, but before then, I just want to see if anyone has any guesses for the other time we hear this. We hear it in a pretty much the same, very similar type of cue, kind of a lo-fi bass thing happening, sort of bass changey thing with that high-pitched piano, synthy, percussion-y thing doing a descending scale. The same exact pattern, just in a slightly different key. All right. I'll count 10 seconds. 1, 9, 8.
Oh, like
7,
for us to guess?
6. Yeah. 5.
Okay, I have a guess, but what's the chat
Three.
say? Let's get
Jonah
the chat
says
in here. Chat.
ISB scenes. No. 3.
Yeah, well, actually, Jonah, I think the one I played is the ISB scenes.
Yeah.
But I
We're
think
kind of
Xanthe's
getting our
thinking of
wires
something
crossed
different.
now.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the similar one
Okay,
for when Cyril's going down the elevator.
I have a guess, but before you kill the count off, but
Okay.
I want Justin, what do you think?
I'm honestly not sure, because this is one of those moments where I had in the second or third watch, I was like, oh, right, there's a thing here.
Yeah.
I paid a little less attention to the music this round.
Okay, what's your
So
guess,
I'm
James?
I'm not quite sure.
Is it when Mon Mothma's like riding in her car in the city, right? And she's like being in the car with her driver?
Pretty much. It's when she's leaving the shop. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Woo!
Yeah.
Yo, I am 2 for 2 on the guesses. Nobody can stump me today.
Yeah. So I think
While
it's
Andor
really-
is walking in space, Scotland. Yes.
I was going to say, Darth Choco, I was waiting for like a bagpipe to appear at some point in the lowlands or something. And I guess Hans Zimmer did that for Dune, so.
I guess I can't make this bigger.
I can't do the rest, but you get the idea.
Yeah. This part
It's
where
Mixolydian, Scottish music. It's Mixolydian, or at least bagpipe music is.
so excuse
Don't make me get out my bagpipe, because I will. I will bring out the bagpipe.
It's this. Okay. 2450. Sorry, being okay. It says
There's like a thin line between Xanthe and like the serial killer from Seven.
oh my god. Okay.
But I love that Xanthe just like channels their madness into Star Wars music, and I love that. We're all much safer because of that.
So don't name me as a suspect in anything upcoming, everyone. keep my name out of the cops' mouths. Okay. So
It even says Saw in the top left corner.
The line "I feel under siege" is very. I feel like that's sort of like one of the main like Mothma lines from this episode, and you just see a kill counter in the corner of the notes. That's what all these numbers are. Yeah, and then again we have that. I see the sad elevator kind of going F minor and then F minor with an E underneath. It kind of gives this tension. Anyway, yeah. So the second time it happens in B A D G C E flat minor, I guess, which is it's a difficult key to play. Yeah. All right, everyone. As long as we confine it to start. No, it is true, and you're not the first person who has said that, James. I've heard that before. That I take total serial killer notes.
I love it. No, it's great. It's amazing.
Thank you. Okay, let's talk about the ISB stuff, James, that you had started to mention.
Okay, so Dedra is awesome. And does anyone know that Dedra seemingly has a percussion instrument that is her percussion instrument?
Tell us about it.
Does anyone know? Well, I want to see if anyone can guess. What percussion instrument is Dedra's percussion instrument? Can give people a second to go back and find a Dedra scene and see if you can hear it.
No.
Yeah, right.
Give us a hint. Is it a...
If I give you too much of a hint, it's going to give it away really hard.
Okay.
I should say that it's
it a bass
not
drum?
It's not groove oriented. It's not like a groovy sound or anything like that.
Okay.
It's not like it doesn't create a groove for us or anything like that. And her music isn't very groovy anyway. But it's a very interesting timbre, and I'm curious to see. What I would love to do is once we flesh this out, I'd love for everybody from now on, when you see her scene, see if in this show, see if this instrument continues to make an appearance, because I tracked it 3 times.
Oh.
Yeah, 3 times in her 3 main scenes, this instrument appears consistently. So I'm very curious if it's going to be kind of like, remember, Justin, you made that awesome observation in Book of Boba Fett that, like, what's his name, Black Chrysanthe sound was a what was it, like a crotale or so? What was it?
Yeah, it was the shakers. It was the Kona.
It was a shaker. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's not a xylophone. K-pop times. Anybody else have a guess?
No. Thanks, Chaco. You get me.
Me too, by the way, Darth Chaco, for sure. Yo, Darth Chaco! Yes! All right. So...
2 tones.
There you
It's
go.
a low bass with a triangle. Nice.
That's right. Every single scene that she's in has this little triangle. I don't know if it's a real triangle or if it's a sample. It's very likely a sample. One of the instruments that's very easy to sample.
But also one of the
where
instrument
where you
that's
only
very
hit
easy.
it once, and then it's like you don't have to worry about like switching strings, whatever. You can just be like, take a recording of this. Excellent, we got it. And now you just press a button and it makes that sound forever, and you never have to hire a percussionist again.
But there was a percussionist, and it was probably the percussionist.
Yeah, no, okay. I'm just kidding. But it's
I need the jokes.
But no, but
explained to me
here's the thing.
sometimes.
But here's
No,
the thing.
I
If
mention it
anyone
just
knows how
because.
these. But when these things are scored, especially things like triangle hits, like sometimes you don't know you want a triangle hit until
Totally.
it's in like the 11th hour of your score, and you're like, "God, I want to throw something in there, and you're like,
What am I
God, I don't want
missing?
to call that. I don't want to call that percussionist again. Let me let me just drop a freaking a ding in there. Anyway, it maybe the percussionist played it. Who knows? But anyway,
The
triangle going
the
on in
Logic
Daedra's
orchestral.
scenes. It's very nice. I don't know what that signifies.
Good job.
I don't know what that signifies particularly. I'm curious what y'all think about the recurrence of the sound of a triangle with this character.
I mean, I don't know about significance other than the significance is being built as the show unfolds just by the association.
Yeah, but
Well,
what
it's
does
funny,
that
too,
like
because, like, when you
aesthetically
hear
do
it-
for you?
Like when you hear a triangle and other things, like whenever I think of like a triangle, I think like ding, an idea, and a little light bulb occurs over your head, kind of a
Sure.
thing. That's my association with it, but I don't quite get that from her in this case, personally. Is it like the
it's
tolling
interesting.
of a bell soon to come? Maybe in each episode it'll get lower and lower and become more of a bell until it's like a death bell kind of a thing.
Until she's
Maybe it's because she's still a bright and perky ISB agent, only a year in. She's still bushy-tailed, trying to do stuff.
But yeah, let's keep an eye out for this character. I have a feeling that this instrument's going to continuously show up for her.
And actually,
Because
another thing
Skunk
that-
asked a question, James. Does the percussion go with her footsteps?
At like the end of episode 2. What happens at the end of? Oh, you mean with the drum set? Kind of, yeah. She's got kind of it happens. The first time it happens is when she's walking into the headquarters, right? But after that, the sound is happening while she's having those conversations, those frustrating conversations with those two characters, like the one that's basically just blatantly disobeying her, right? Her orders.
Yeah.
And then there's the other character who I loved that other, I don't know if his name was said, but her like underling character that and I feel like his makeup job is like really, he just looks so like, he looks like he's just like part of this evil system and he can't get out kind of thing. He just looks like such a sad character, his vibe is very like poor thing, He's like, oh, maybe it would be more meaningful if you said that, and she's like, no, you got, like, I don't know. I really felt
talking
for that
about
character.
Blevin?
Is that what his name is? Blevin?
No, Blevin was the
No.
Oh, Partagas?
No,
that? Yeah.
her assistant, they're going
She's
over
like-
some stuff.
She's like reading. He's like reading the stuff, and he's like, she's like, oh, like Ferrex is spelled wrong, and remember she's like doing the intel for the Ferrex incident with that one person. I just found his role was really small, but I feel like his like no.
It's okay.
This is like Guess Who.
That's the guy who said. That's the guy who mentioned Scarab.
No,
That's the guy who
not
didn't
that
turn in his
character.
reports.
I know.
No.
I don't think that
Every other
this
one.
character is in the big roundtable discussion. This is the character that's in her
No, he's-
chambers with her,
Yeah, they're
talking
not.
to her. I don't know what the name of his character is,
Me neither.
but
I loved that round
regard-
table discussion though.
No, Xanthe,
That
no.
character I
I know. I
love.
just wanted to show
That
them all
one,
because
though.
I love them.
Different character, but that
Do
one.
you
Flashback or
have
whatever.
glasses? Guess who? Remember that game? So, anyway,
I liked his character too. Just felt immediately bad for him.
yeah, I felt the same way, K-pop. And Casino Skunk for sure with the triangle. That's the nice thing about the triangle is it's just such a different timbre from like literally everything else in the orchestra or the percussion section that it always sticks out when you play it. It really, and it can be used really effectively because of that. It's like got a lot of overtones and sounds in it. It's a great instrument. It's a lot more to it than you would think. I actually have spent hours practicing this instrument.
The Imperials. Can we let's talk about the ISB people and especially Dedra. First of all, is it just me or like the sound of Dedra's voice is extremely pleasing to me? And I don't know if it's like the tone of it, like the register, the sort of the pitch. It's sort of like it's kind of like a smooth alto or something. I don't know, right? Like it's kind of a little bit of a, but it's also very smooth. And maybe it's her accent it's British, but
There's
I'm
a
not.
confidence to her. There's like a confidence,
Yeah.
the way that she's like delivering stuff. It feels like to me. There's like she seems very sure of herself, even when she's kind of stumbling in front of her boss. She's still like, no, I'm right, you know, kind of a thing, and she's just trying to like not let anything beat her down. In a way, even though it seems like a lot is stacked against her, I feel like there's just a confidence.
I think you're
Where
onto something.
it's like one of those things like where if you like you act confident, people will respond, but the people aren't responding, and that's the problem. But she keeps trying.
Justin, I think that might be one of the reasons, because I don't think it's just the voice alone. I think it's like, for me, seeing her have that voice, despite being in those situations, like despite being in the situations that she's in, and also seeing it paired with her very dour expression that sort of looks like, her expression doesn't look particularly confident. Her expression kind of looks like perplexed and
Just-
sort of disgruntled and
just
sort
kinda
of
look.
like constipated. Like her expression, her expression doesn't look very pleased and doesn't look like she, you know, her expression doesn't look great, but what comes out of her mouth is still very confident. It's sort of like that juxtaposition is maybe what makes her voice sound like it's surprising. Like every time she speaks, I'm like surprised by how she sounds. That's not really a great
No.
representation, but yeah. So something about her voice.
Yeah, it's a. This is like the range, the range
Yeah.
that she speaks in.
Yeah.
Like in this kind of pitch range, as opposed to like my voice is usually up here, and Xanthe, your voice is kind of like
It's higher than hers. Yeah.
and then Justin, you're like down here, you know.
Yeah.
So
Really?
she's like in this like mid range, you know.
Yeah, hers.
Justin, where's the spectrogram of her voice, man?
Let me find it.
You know what it is
Yeah.
though? Because I would actually be curious to see it, because everyone's voice has like its like sort of fundamental
Actually,
frequency pitch.
give
but
me a
then,
second, and
but then
I
like
have the whole episode on a spectrogram right now.
Oh snap, dude! I'll give you a second then. I'll give you a
Let me-
timestamp.
But we would
keep
have to see
talking,
it. But we would have to see it.
I've got another sound associated with her I want to play, but I'll
But we
find
would have to
this
see it
first.
also in comparison to another voice, because it just one
Sure.
voice alone wouldn't really. Or we could also prepare this stuff for next episode, FYI, if it makes our computers run too slow and the stream starts like crapping out.
Right.
But
Sure.
her voice is something like, it's low, but it's also it feels very like the frequencies feel more like this. Like it feels very solid rather than. I've talked about job explaining it. You know, some voices, they sound up here, but they have a lot of pitch underneath, or they have a lot of pitch in different places, which almost makes their voice sound like there's a grumble to it. But her voice, I feel like, does not have a grumble to it. I would be curious if she's a singer actually, but also like,
Smooth.
but also there's something to her diction that is like, even though it's British, okay, sorry to paint British accents in a kind of broad brush. I can hear some differences, but I don't know all the different dialects or whatever. Like there's something
Right.
about her language that, even though it has sort of the pointiness to British vowels, it feels still very smooth. Like it feels very, it's
Xanthe.
not, yeah, it's legato. What?
Xanthe,
What?
via Wikipedia,
Okay.
she trained as a soprano before leaving Ireland for London at 15.
I knew it. She sounds like a singer.
How spot on was that, dude? Good work.
Thank you.
Yo, Kelly, is it Go or Goff? I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Gough. Denise Goff. I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Darth Chaco, if I want to know more about what you're talking about. So he says, I was just thinking that, Xanthe. I just saw a video on finding your true voice. Do you mean like finding your true like range for your own comfortable speaking range? Is that what you mean? I'm assuming you mean that and not just like finding your voice as an artist or whatever. It sounds like that's what she is doing. Unless, well, it could be either way because she did leave her singing career, it seems. Anyway, if you have a link, do drop it, please. Because I'm always interested in that topic as well. Anyway, cool. So Jonah says all of the Imperial voices sound pleasing for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also agree. I think it's also because they're like such good actors.
Yo, the acting in this show is top notch. Top notch. It's kind of unbelievable.
And the attention to detail, just in so much, in not just the imagery and the design, but just what we're seeing, what we're hearing in different ways. And I got an example of this that actually works with Deidre. This is the sound, and I don't know what the device is called, but it appears multiple times in the episodes, and a little bit, and towards the end of the episode, I don't know, my sound nerd reactor went off, kind of a thing, in the sense of detail. The sound is this. That's the sound.
Was not prepared for that.
Right. That's the sound. Do you want to hear that again?
Yes, please.
So that's the sound of her tablet, all the Imperial tablets, when they're scanning and stuff like that, and delivering stuff. And the reason I'm bringing it up, I know it's small in the background, won't even pay attention, sounds like a computer. But what's interesting, and goes with how the attention of detail to this show, that appears multiple times with their kind of dual screen with the really awkward, I don't get why there's the weird shape on the screen kind of a thing for dual screens. But then it sounds very, and how I recreated the sound was it's a hard drive just pitched up in different ways. But which kind of gives it that like clickety kind of feel. Later on in the episode, at the very, very end, when they hand Cassian also like a data pad scan dock, I don't know what the official name of it is, they hand him one. It's a very much of an older model. It has a different sound to it, in a way that makes it sound a lot older. It's almost like the Imperials have iPads and these rebels have like a BlackBerry. You know, it's like it's got a deeper click to. I know this is going into extreme nerd territory here, but like it's got a deeper click to it, almost like more mechanical in a way. And it sounds used. It sounds old. It's a BlackBerry, an old type of or Palm Pilot. Even you want to take it back even farther. Palm
Is it
Pilot.
is it sort of like having a solid state drive versus like a
Kinda. That's what it sounded like to me. It sounded like, you know, like the Imperials have this much nicer technology, obviously, and then when handing a different data pad to Andor, it couldn't sound the same. I mean, we could have. The sound designer could have been like, yeah, just play it's the same sound. It's a computer thing. But I want to think and hope that there is some discussion like, well, no, it's older. It needs to sound different. It's like a lot of sound designers will ask these questions like, oh, I want a car. Okay, what kind of car? Do you want a 1945 car? Do you want a 1930s car? Do you want a car from Japan? Do you want a car from America? Do you want a Jeep? Do you want to, it gets into such intense detail because they all sound a little different. So you don't get, jerks like me going, well, that kind of bird doesn't exist in that tropical climate, kind of a thing like that when they do a little bit more research. With it.
Here's the other interesting thing, though, also, when we compare this technology to Earth technology in the year of 2022, is like the fact that it even makes a sound, right? Like, imagine if iPads all were like at all times, right? Or iPhones were constantly making hard drive sounds, right? And essentially what their data pad is doing, I mean, I don't know how the technology works, if the data is stored on the device or if it's accessing it from some sort of cloud-based thing, it might be that all the data is on the device and therefore there's like some physical hard drive spinning as opposed to it pulling it in from the cloud or something like that. So regardless, it's even interesting that these things make a sound, right? And in some ways, like if they wanted it to be more quote unquote like Earth-like and realistic, they would make them all kind of silent, like our devices are, right? But instead to kind of immerse us in this particular sci-fi world, I think like you can't make those things silent. I think they kind of have to have a hum or a click or something to them. I mean, it's not that they can't, but I think the fact that it does make such a definitive type of sound creates that interesting Star Wars aesthetic where it's like things are really advanced, but they're also kind of like janky at the same time. You know what I mean?
Totally.
That's just a thought. That's just a thought.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it's also can be very much like a psychological thing sound designers will do. I see things moving on a screen, on screen in a screen. You know, I'm watching the show, and on an in-world there's like numbers moving on a screen. They don't always in real life make a sound, like you're saying. It also like, oh look, something's happening. It's computing. The computer is computing in a way.
Right.
Even if we don't hear that anymore in our daily lives, kind of a thing, it makes us see like, oh, look, the words are changing. Oh, look, info's changing, kind of a thing. Something is happening and is forcing our eyes to that object more than just, just visually. You know, it helps us, the sound is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, just this attention to detail with the whole show is just insane. Awesome.
I want to pick up a couple of thoughts about the sound design of the silence versus, not silence of those devices. And one of them is sort of like the obvious general sound design sort of principle, I guess, of things just having a sound, or like we are trained to hear sounds on screen sort of differently than we do in real life, sort of like punches and stuff like that. There's also Emmanuel, whatever, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Kant, his idea of like noumena and phenomena, which noumena is like how things actually exist, like how things really are. And phenomena is how our conception of things, as we perceive them with our senses. And so sound design kind of tugs at, it is sort of an example of like phenomena, which is not how it really is, but how we perceive it. And obviously on screen, that's what sound designers do. They kind of create this heightened, kind of false sense of reality in their world with sound. That's all fine and good. We all know that. Like we've been talking about that for ages in sound design. But also, if we were to imagine like an in-universe explanation for why a device that is silent would need to have sound, I think on Earth we actually do mirror that as well, because I think you might have silent iPad and everything, but a lot of people will on purpose want the clicking sound, or sort of bring back, mechanical keyboards have been like coming back, people have been trying to reintroduce those sounds. If you think of like electric vehicles as well, there is like an artificial noise floor that is added to them so that they're not too silent. So like there is, even though things can be quiet, I think on Earth we have been realizing for the past, for a long time that maybe it doesn't have the same sense. We don't get the same satisfaction when things are silent. So product designers will add things, not even sounds, but they'll add like progress bars, kind of doing a little thing that shows your quote unquote progress as something is loading, and then users find it more satisfying when the thing is loaded than
you want feedback sounds, right?
Yeah.
Because those sounds, like when you're it's kind of like the thing vibrates in your hand, right? Like when you open it, right? It's creating some type of feedback for you to let you know that you've input, that it's received your input, right? And that's interesting. I mean, I don't know if this sound of this tablet is that feedback sound. It's more like it's actually running noise, right? Like it's actually like the actual mechanical, like this device It's kind of like your fan.
That's what it
running
feels
on your,
like. Yeah, yeah.
on
these
your
tablets,
as
yeah.
opposed to your feedback. It doesn't seem like an aesthetic choice that this device is making to make it sound like
not
it's running.
necessarily.
It's right, and it's just an interesting thing to think about, right? It's like, because imagine like she takes that tablet with her, you know, into like a quiet meeting or something. Everybody's tablets are sitting there on the desk going while they're having a conversation, right? It's just, you know, the logistical things to think about with it are interesting. But for sure, I think there's also an aesthetic choice.
And I think aesthetic mechanical sounds are a thing as well, even though it's mechanical.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like you kind of want, you know, there's no, it's like, you know, you go on to when you see the ships and there's like just like constant beeping going on, right? And it's kind of like that. It's like those sounds are probably programmed into some of the ships to let you know, like, the stuff's working. It's working. Don't worry, right? It doesn't need to beep, right? But it maybe beeps for the purpose of aesthetics or letting the user know, like, hey, your stuff is working the way it's supposed to be working.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's really interesting, especially the Tesla that you brought up, or the e-vehicles, right? Is really interesting.
Which reminds me of like the original, well, not the original, but like the one of the first generations of iPods that when they were first introducing like a thing that didn't move, but it made the clicking sound, and you had to go into the menu. Like the first thing you did is you went into the menu and turned off the clicking sound because you're like, well, this is obnoxious. But then you're kind of like, but I kind of miss it at the same time. You know, it's telling you that the selection is moving even though I can see it. You know, it's kind of fun. Well, then
on your phones, do you have the when you type like texts and stuff?
No,
do you
I
turn it
off.
I have mine on. I like it. I
have mine on.
I strongly like it on as well.
No, I got yelled at once for having it on during a something. They're like, turn that off. I was like, okay.
Well,
okay.
I mean, I mute it when I need to.
Let me
but
see.
Yeah.
Let me see if I do.
So I just turned it off.
I think I do.
Mine's
Yeah, I
definitely
do.
on. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Someone has asked me before, doesn't that bother you? And I'm like, no,
I love it. I love those sounds.
Me too.
Dude, sometimes I just turn my phone on and off just for the I just sit there on my couch and I just go. I do that all the time. All the time. It's like
a very
tick.
satisfying sound.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sound designers and
about-
Apple definitely have their stuff together.
Yeah. Whenever I notice a new sound being introduced on a social media app, though, let me say I turn it off immediately, even if I like it, like because the whole point is like I feel invaded when a new pleasant sound effect happens on a social media app, because that just helps reinforce the like dopamine pathway. You have like Twitter does this thing now where you refresh and it kind of goes like it does this little like chirpy thing. And as soon as I heard that a few weeks ago, I was like, how do I disable that? Because I don't want to start liking that sound.
And also, you don't want to. To me, I don't want to like advertise to people like what. It's basically a way, if people recognize that sound enough that's like specific to that app, they know what you're receiving on your phone even without looking at it. I'll give you an example. Some dating apps have like very specific sounds to their notifications. And so sometimes it's like, for any of you other single people out there that use those apps, you know, sometimes it's like, ooh, that's kind of awkward. You just got a message on your dating app, you know, it's like that was very clearly the message, the sound notification from that very popular dating app, you know. So
I guess it's awkward if you're trying to hide it, but now we all know.
Yeah,
So.
you know,
Or if you assign a text tone to somebody, you know, on your phone, and then somebody else's phone goes off with the same text tone, you immediately like, ooh, it's that person, or it's that thing, you know.
You know what I
but
think
that wasn't
is-
my phone, so.
I was thinking about this the other day. Remember back in the day when everybody would get custom ringtones all the time, like back in the early 2000s, and you would go and get like a MIDI version of your phone, like of a favorite song, and you would you would call your mobile. Well, yeah, maybe you did, but I know like lots of people stupidly did that, myself included, being like, I want to pay $5.99 for a MIDI version of this Outkast song that I like, for on my phone. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Ooh, I am for real. I had that as my ringtone, but it was like a 2-bit MIDI version of it, right? And
Terrible MIDI.
And And the thing is, like, there wasn't an app on your phone you'd buy it from. You'd have to call a number and go and listen through a catalog of ringtones and then select it and buy it using your mobile carrier. And I remember people used to do that. And it was like part of your identity with your phone. It was like, oh, this is my custom ringtone. But something happened along the lines where everybody gave up on individualization. And most people just have that have an iPhone just have you know what I mean? Like, people have given up on customization for the most part of their ringtones.
Apple doesn't make it easy. They don't allow you to just do that anymore. So
Yeah, to
Is
get
it
the
true?
BB-8
You can't
sound on my
upload
phone
your-
as your text
no,
tone.
you can't upload songs as your ringtone. You can do it as your text tone. I know because a couple years ago I was trying to make a lot of ringtones, like just for fun. They're like little composition exercises, and to actually assign it to my iPhone, I had to use a native you had to use GarageBand on the iPhone, export it as an Apple
Wow.
ringtone, and it was like a different format, and it couldn't work on any other. Like, I couldn't just send it to someone and say, "Hey, I made a ringtone. Set it as your ringtone." They would have to also either buy it from Apple, or have it exported through a DAW as their
Yeah, I
special
see it
ringtone
right here. It
file.
says Tone Store. Download all
yeah.
purchase
So-
tones. That's so gross.
Anyway,
dude.
yeah. Okay, back to
so-
Andor. Back to Andor.
I am not making that up.
Speaking
What
of-
do you think I'm making up?
Okay, wait.
The
My
MIDI
default
thing?
text tone is Jar Jar saying "excuse me." It's perfect because I never hear
Excuse
someone
me.
using it in a crowd. Yeah, that would
I
not be
love
something
it.
you hear all the time. But that,
I don't think I could listen to that over and over and over again.
yeah, I think that could only be assigned to like one person.
I never thought that anything could make me hate Jar Jar Binks, but I guess that might. So.
Yeah. Okay, Andor.
Actually, kind of still on the same topic, but with Andor, here's a sound that appears twice in the episode, and is actually a classic Star Wars sound of a thing. Well, actually, okay, so then backing up again, the sonogram that I just sent is Deidre saying, "Are you denying my request?" So you can see the little raise in the st and of request as it like goes up in pitch
Wow.
and noise and stuff like that. But that's the range of her voice when she says that specific.
Wow, but it's very low on the spectrogram there, on whatever whatever the what do you call it? The
Right, which
scale
would
is
be
there.
which is human speaking range. So I need to adjust the it's like a logarithmic. It's like a special kind. It's like a certain scaling. I can change that for next time. But anyways,
Yeah.
different sound though that appears in many Star Wars things of a thing that in our world does not make a sound, but in Star Wars has a very, very distinct sound. See if you all can guess this. I'm sure, I know you've all heard it many times, and it's appeared twice in this episode. Any guesses from the chat? By chance, I'll play it again.
Did you make this, Justin?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
How did you make this?
You're saying that's a common sound that we
I'll
all
play the original
encounter
sample
a
too.
lot?
Well, yes, Jonah, it's the binocular sound.
I'm sorry.
Anytime
that's
we
a common
see
sound that we all encounter every day.
In Star Wars?
Oh,
well,
in
no,
Star
I'm saying
Wars.
in Star. I said in Star Wars it makes a
sorry.
sound. In
I'm
our world, the whole conversation we just had about
Sorry.
things in Star Wars making sounds that real world devices doesn't do.
Yes.
Our binoculars
Go
don't
off,
make
Justin.
sounds, but you should know this.
Get him. Get him, Justin.
Well, not just
Wow.
that, but yeah, it is. It used to be a common sound in real world. In real world, how I made this sound was a film projector.
Ah.
But by pitching it up and adding some beeps, it becomes the binocular sounds of Star Wars. At least
Brilliant.
that's how I recreated it.
That's
amazing.
awesome.
And we hear this twice in the thing. So instead of so this round, I usually for those who have seen the show before or have not seen the show, I usually recreate the sounds live on my synthesizers and stuff like that. But you can kind of see Shelly's turned off and taken half apart because I'm doing something else with her at the moment. So I actually did the other way of sound design, which is go find recordings of stuff and manipulate them to the point where you're like, yeah, that could be that.
Which we
Kind
love.
of a
We
thing.
love that too. Yeah. That's
Which
awesome.
is fun.
That is awesome, Justin. Thank you for that. And also those
But we
shots are. Oh, go ahead.
no, really, I was just gonna agree with you. Yeah, those shots are
say.
really cool.
Those shots are really cool and also very classic Star Wars to see the
Yep.
shot from the viewfinder of the binoculars, quadnoculars, macro
So-
binoculars.
I feel like we all have like a trigger response for those types of scenes. I feel like because of the first time we see that in Star Wars, it's like abruptly, interrupted by a Tusken Raider attacking Luke. So whenever I see those scenes, I'm just expecting
When is
something
it
to be
gonna-
like, ah, like right in the middle of it, you know? So that's how I feel whenever I see those scenes, you know?
That's funny. I see the Kenobi post. I see the Kenobi like promo shot of him going like.
Yeah, right. Right.
I have a piece. I have a little snippet to play that
Yeah.
you can identify where we hear it. Let's get in a lower octave. Okay. Let me just. Okay. I can do it clearer. With the chords clearer.
Ooh. That little bit sounds kind of familiar.
In the comments, I'm curious if you either know where that's from, who it's associated with, or maybe if it sounds familiar in some way. What does it sound like? How would you describe that?
It's almost like not menacing, but like, and not evil, but like this kind of like turn of darkness kind of a thing. Something bad's gonna happen or is happening. Sneaky, in a way, sneaky bad.
That's
Interesting.
Jonah's guess. But yeah, some more descriptors perhaps. I'll tell you
Yeah,
if
what's the-
Jonah's right. Do you have any thoughts, James?
I don't. It's yeah, I don't know. And is it what's the instrumentation?
Strings, low strings.
Low strings. Do you have a string sample that you can switch to or no on that?
It's not a good one.
Yeah, I mean, but it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so we can hear it
I'm
the
not
way
even
it sounds
joking.
in
I'm
the score.
definitely not exaggerating when I say it's okay. It could be worse. It could be worse. Okay.
Sounds real to me. Hum.
I'm just gonna say.
Right? Hum. Boba, boba, boba. Boba, boba, bo.
That
That's probably the last time I used that.
Yeah, that's why I got flashbacks. This is the part where Boba Fett shows up, right?
right? Yeah.
Oh my god. No, incorrect.
No, no.
I don't know. Jonah is probably correct. He seems very what's the word?
Smart.
Confident. Yeah, I mean, sure. Yeah, we have smart. We have very smart viewers. But regardless, I think that exclamation point seems very confident. So I'm gonna go with Jonah. This is
We're
the
just
ISB
defaulting to Jonah
introduction.
now, which wouldn't be the first time we have just done that. Yes, it's when Dedra enters the ISB. Exactly, Imperial Security Bureau. And one thing I want to point
Imperial.
out is this chord progression that is happening. First of all, so it's C sharp minor to A minor. I need to get away from this string sound because it's starting to sound a little weird to me. So let's go back to just normal piano. Okay. No, I said normal piano. There we go. Okay. So I'm a smart fella, he says. Okay.
The ego levels on this group of nerds is
So-
through the roof.
This is a chord progression, C sharp minor to A minor, or transposed to another tonal center, whatever. But this is an associative progression that is associated with, villainy. So it,
Yeah.
and so it's in a lot of, it's present in many themes throughout Star Wars. John Williams has tons of them that kind of have this at some point. Even if we go to since on Star Wars Music Minute we just finished Solo season, so even if we think of Han Solo's searching variant, never mind. But the point is this thing. So we've heard it in many places, repeated, even in the Bad Batch. When the interrogator droid, there's an interrogator droid scene. I forgot, but that happens as well, and also it reminds me of in Obi-Wan Kenobi. I almost thought it was going to be that. Where it goes. Okay. I'm going to get them mixed up because they sound so similar. Whatever, Vader's theme in Kenobi, the show, which we didn't stream about, but yeah, it bears a striking similarity. And the thing is, I don't think Bertel was aware of Natalie Holt's score whatsoever. I think they both did their own spins. I think they both took a crack at using this sort of chord progression in an Imperial / Vader theme, and so their themes are strangely cohesive with one another, just because they both seem to have adapted it from the same source material or the same chord progression. So just a little interesting tidbit, I think.
It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
And what's interesting too is that, I mean, the distance between C sharp and A. Forget about the chord for a second there. It's a major third, right? Mm-hmm. In a way. Mm-hmm. Which would build us a major chord, which is a very happy thing. But the fact that it's these two minor chords, major, minor, happy, sad, is usually what we'll say. The fact that it's that is, I don't know, it's just kind of interesting how what's usually associated as a happy leap or a happy interval, by pairing these two chords like this makes it sound so menacing. And so
It does.
has this darker association with it.
Well, I think it sounds so uncanny because these are such unrelated chords. Because trying to explain this without using music theory language, basically this to this. No, I'm trying to think of an example that wouldn't be such a big leap, but would still be two minor chords. For example, no, that would be very big of a leap. Okay, this would be a minor. If this were minor chord, minor chord, minor chord, that wouldn't be as much of a leap because they already share a lot of the same notes. They already share a lot of the same notes.
Right.
But in taking C sharp minor and going to A minor, they don't share. They share very few notes, and so it feels almost like you're getting knocked off of some sort of a bass and just taken to this other key. So, I mean, this would be like a chromatic median, it's called, but it's very,
Yeah.
it's very sticks out. It really sticks out when you hear it.
And maybe one of the simple ways to put it is in any major key, major scale. Oh my God, piano's not on. There are no chords in a major key in which there's a minor chord that is that same distance away from another minor chord. You have to use notes that are not that are native to the key, to make that happen. There's no way to go from a minor chord and go down a major third to a minor chord on that note. It's just there's no way to make it happen without adding notes that are not in the key, and that adding those notes that are not native to the key makes things sound maybe dissonant's not the word, but it makes it piques your ear because it's using notes that are not part of the vocabulary that you're using normally. If that makes sense.
So some other examples include the Death Star motif, Jabba the Hutt, one of Kylo Ren's themes, Krennic, Anthem of Evil. So those are some examples. Yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah. It's okay. According to Frank Lehman's thematic catalog, he calls it villainy, but also he says tragedy, the dark side, and the alien are the associations. So,
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
That's a cool little example. Exactly. Definitely feels imperial, evil-like. Jonah. I have another example, unless if other people don't have another one.
I've got one more. Well, two more,
it.
but I've got one more major
Let's hear
sound I want to play. Kind of a thing.
Do it.
And you're all gonna know this, but I was excited to hear it because it's one of my favorite sounds, and usually that goes to the speeder bikes, which we did have a speeder bike in this, which was great. But that is so hard to recreate. It's like jet engines and very specific things. The closest I could get was I found the original, like one of the jet engines that they sampled for it. I wrote it down, the P58 something or another. Like starting up, and it kind of sounds like parts of the speeder bike. And then I tried to like manipulate a French horn to sound like the little woo kind of a thing, and it didn't quite work out.
Hey.
Didn't quite work out.
I love
but
it.
see, if you're true Star Wars nerds, you'll be able to get this one automatically, and kind of a thing. This one was fun.
Justin. Wait a second.
Any guesses?
You made this sound. You made this sound too.
I did. Well,
Wow.
I mean, not the sounds that I made it out of, but yeah, the sound for this. Any guesses of what that
I'm
might be?
blown away that you made this sound. I was like, when I heard this sound in the episode, I was like, we gotta talk about this moment. But I was like, there's no way we're gonna be able to make, like, Justin's gonna be able to make that thing. Turns out I was wrong. Hey,
But,
Justin. Hey, can you give us any? No, you're not. None of us are on stereo, so you can't give us the pan, can you?
No, I thought about that, but I was like, oh, I should pan this. Yeah, everyone in the chat's getting it. Yeah, this is exactly Robo Elephant.
So actually, play that again, but everybody. Start with your headphones on this way, and let's switch to that one. Let's go. Here we go. Do it again.
Ready?
Do it again.
Ready? 3,
I'm gonna
2,
try to get the
1.
full effect. Yeah.
And it's so here's the thing. Before we get into the scene, everyone's pointing out sounds about elephants. So I looked up how Ben Burt and the team actually made the TIE Fighter sound, and it's a combination of all sorts of things, but two big things. Karn wet pavement, which sounds like this naturally. The one that I found.
Yeah.
And elephants.
Yeah.
I had
this
never
is what I
thought
used.
about that.
And what's funny is
before.
that he used the elephant samples that were already used for like another film that was already like recorded from the studio. So he had
Right.
elephant sounds from another
He
film
had the elephant
to
sounds.
use. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
had
adding
never
some...
made that connection before. That sounds like an organic thing. I don't know why I hadn't ever thought of that before.
Crazy,
That it
right?
sounds
So
like
now
an
every
animal.
time, so now every time you see a TIE fighter, you'll think
won't
about
unhear it
elephants.
now.
But you'll think about elephants.
Wow.
But with all that layered and some like, you know, a little doctoring, a little stretching here and there, some volume pan, and so add a little distortion, add a little chorus effect to it, kind of a thing for guitar players know what that is. And it kind of sounds like a TIE fighter. Which in this scene, we get to see TIE fighters in the distance burst over the scene.
And that was awesome.
Which was awesome. It drove me a little crazy at first because when they like, in my mind, I'm thinking of a fighter jet coming in a way that you would hear it a little bit louder than they heard it in world and scene there for a bit. And then the moment like the TIEs appear in view, there's like this burst of sound, and I figured there'd be a little bit more like gradual thing. But then, you know, of course, I went and watched a bunch of fighter jet passing over the heads of people YouTube videos, and I was like, okay, it's like half and half. Sometimes you could hear it coming, sometimes you couldn't until it was. But such a powerful, loud.
It's kind of like what Xanthe was talking about with the idea of like realism versus not. It's like if they telepath that too much, you know, like it would. I think the effect of those things flying over their heads to the audience wouldn't be like if it's clear that the characters kind of hear something that the audience doesn't hear yet, right? Like in that moment, like because I remember I was like, I didn't really hear what they're hearing, but I think that's the point. You're like not supposed to know what they're hearing until it happens. So I think you're right, Justin. Like you probably would have heard that sound a little earlier than we do as the audience, but I think that they did that on purpose so that you're like, oh, those are TIE fighters.
And there's always like, it's the suspension of belief. It's like when they're talking about Andor in the hut, and he's getting his arm bandaged up, and they're kind of like having this quite loud conversation about not trusting him or trusting him or things like that. But then it kind of turns to him like you can't hear them. It's like, no, you would have I would have heard you talking about me, but, or maybe he does. But it made the impression that like he couldn't overhear what they were saying. So you know, suspension of belief. Elephants.
I love it.
I want an edit. I want someone to do like an edit of all the TIE fighters replaced with elephants, and like flying through the just. Like
Don't
you just
make
see
me,
it.
I will.
You don't even have to make it like look like it's working like in the right position. Just kind of in its standing, like it's standing in all fours, but it just kind of. Yeah, that'd be a sight to see.
Awesome.
Just endless elephants.
I like how they recognize it before we do, because it also kind of shows how like sensitive they are. You know, when you're when you are super keenly in tune with your environment, you can hear even just like the pre-noise of certain things happening, and you can have like a response just before you even hear the real thing. Like I know for me that certainly is the case, and so they're just so attuned to when this happens. They barely have to hear even a hint. They can feel it. They just know how everything changes when they come, when the TIE fighters are there. So,
this moment made me think of two things, or like maybe think two things about what it implies, which is like, for one thing, I kind of when Luthen touches down on this area, it's very clear that it's very far away from their base, right? So like, and that's on purpose. So there's not drawn attention to where this base is. But it also made me think like, I guess that was a lot riskier of a meeting than we're led to believe at first, because the TIE fighters are apparently patrolling like not very far from where they just met. And Luthen's kind of like parked out in the middle of a clearing, you know? He's like, it's very clearly a ship parked on this planet, talking to two people that are planning. So in some ways, like that was a very risky decision, because apparently there's like at any time TIE fighters could have flown over that meeting and been like, what's going on here? And Luthen is like, you know, kind of like a, you know, seemingly important high society man that might be known by the Imperials, you know? So that was the first thing I thought. I was like, interesting. That I guess that was very risky. But the second thing I thought of was just like, first of all, this is the first TIE fighters we've seen in the show. So it's like a peek of them. It's almost like seeing Jaws in the beginning of the movie, where like you don't really see the shark, but you see like Like you see the characters getting eaten by the shark. You don't really see it yet. You get a little bit more, right, as you go. So they're kind of introducing the Imperial force, one little thing by little thing, little bit thing by little thing, right? And like the Imperials weren't even there in the first couple episodes, but we kind of felt their presence, right? So I love that. And it's also like they're treating something that is so like, what's the word? Ubiquitous in Star Wars media as TIE fighters, as like this very huge moment. Like we've seen TIE fighters a million times, but they managed to make them scary again in this one moment, you know? Like we haven't been scared by TIE fighters. And you know, like there's that, they're used as comedy in Solo, right? Like Solo's like, well, they're not going to send TIE fighters out for just one little ship. And then there's like 20, like, you know, like 100 of them come out. Like they're used as a joke, like in Solo, you know, as opposed to in this show, they're like, we only get them like from rock to rock. And that's as much as we see them, you know? And so I just thought it was really effective, and it's cool how they're really slow. The slow burn that everybody's been talking about with the show is real, and it's good. You know, they're not showing their hand with everything that they could have, you know, like even in Mando, the first episode is like, we get stormtroopers, we get all kinds of Imperial, you know, we get everything that is going on. They don't really hold back the villains as much in this, as they do in this show. So
That's a great point, James,
Yeah.
because like I think even even musically a similar thing is happening where we're talking about like a triangle perhaps being associated with a character. It's not like we're getting, again, not to bring up this moment that just Book of Boba Fett / Mandoverse doing like the super obvious Mando flair. It's like, can you be
Right.
can you be any more obvious with any of your like motifs and hints? Which is fine. Like, it's not that we don't like that. It's just sort of like feels so overtly like holding our hand. Just like I feel like in those moments, I feel kind of, I don't want to say talked down to as an audience member, but I feel sort of like the showrunners don't trust the audience to like make a connection or feel like it's necessary for everyone in the audience to make a connection when it's not. There's like zero chill in that, but like in Andor, there's a lot more of like just showing, you know, TIE fighters are just like showing a little leg. That's all. It's not like you're getting like a whole thing. It's just, and sometimes seeing small doses of something scary is much more impactful than just like putting it all out in front of you. And then you're kind of desensitized. And the only thing you can do is just keep raising the bar. Now, because they're so reserved, like any escalation will be perceived as an escalation, even if they're not doing like 10 minutes of TIE fighter screen time. So really effective use of pacing and in all the elements, holding things in reserve, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They're holding a lot in reserve.
It's also giving us like, I don't know, I feel like some of the things I've loved about the new movies movies and content from Disney is that they give us perspectives on things that we never saw before. It's kind of like that scene in Force Awakens I really loved, with that lots of people love, is the Poe and Finn flying the TIE fighter. And I remember when Poe was like, whoa, this thing really moves. And I just remember never even thinking about that. Like, I guess those things fly in a way that like maybe like an X-Wing pilot wouldn't. And we just get to spend a little bit more time with these things that we've seen so many times and get new perspectives. That's kind of what this moment feels like. It's like these TIE fighters are menacing and they're terrifying. And they're not just like they're not just a cannon fodder for X-Wings, you know?
Yeah.
So I really like that. So and they're elephants.
And they're elephants.
And
yeah,
they're
exactly.
elephants. They are flying elephants. That's what they are.
Okay, I have one more little example. Oh my god, I just dropped my bow. Okay, I'm gonna do some light looping. That's it. It's very short. And there's drums underneath it. Boom.
What are the drums doing?
Boom. Quarter notes. Boom. 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 Boom.
It's Space Scotland, right?
Boom. 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 Sorry, I'm trying to do steady, but I'm not doing it well. Boom. 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 And there's specifically no vibrato on the strings, but it is like violins.
I was teasing Xanthe's notation because they wrote
posted
quarter notes
something.
they wrote quarter notes on the top of the staff, which is not where this would be notated.
And
if
I was
it
like, I'm
notating
not
drum.
trying to do that. I'm not trying to.
I love how they're so specific about not putting non-vibrato in the string sketching, but can't be bothered to bring the drum part down to its proper part on the staff.
James, don't start that. No, because I don't think that's important. Like, non-vibrato tells me a performance note about what it sounds like. Putting drums on the right staff is not important to me. What's important to me is
I know. It's very clear that
wanted
it's
to
not
show-
important to you. It's very
James,
clear.
You don't like it. You don't like it when the bass
I'm
drum
gonna-
is on
I
the
love
top
that.
staff and you put the triangle.
Because
on
when
the
I
bottom.
read that, this is what I hear when I read that. I hear this. Bing, 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 bing.
That's why these are my personal notes.
They're personal notes that they post on Twitter. That's right. Yeah.
Well, it's
Yes,
underneath.
to share
it's
music with people,
underneath
James.
the-
Don't do this. No, because the most important. These are my personal notes for how I perceive music and for how I can remember what I'm hearing, so that when I talk about it, I know. I'm not going to remember. I don't care about.
I'm just teasing.
I
you,
know, but I'm
okay?
just. Don't at me about my musical convention.
I am a drummer.
All I care about was showing that
And-
that there is a drum. I didn't even say what drum, but there is a drum doing quarter notes.
That is I'm
all
a
I
drummer,
cared about.
and that is a cymbal part you have written.
I didn't. I wanted to do it in as economical a space as possible. I'm not writing
I'm
a
just-
score.
okay.
It's for my notes.
This is content, okay?
What, our fight? No.
Yeah. Anyway, so yes, I don't know when this part is.
I don't have a sense of humor about this. But okay. Oh, I guess that the answer is in the transcription. Oops. Okay, well, Jonah, you're right. It's in the first
Okay.
scene. Oh, is it the first scene? I can't remember. It's the first one. It's basically in that little transition where Cassian and Val are, like, it's changing from night to day. It's like overnight, the time is elapsing. And yeah, it is Space Scotland, as you said before. And then at the end, it's just very short, it's like 10 seconds or something. And then it's morning, and I forgot his name, goes, everyone's dead. Because he fell asleep on the watch. And so theoretically, everyone could be dead, which I feel like is a very, that phrase sort of was just, he's like, don't tell Val. I don't know. It was very parental. And also very shows how, like, serious their respective jobs are in this mission. Like, yeah.
So I just have sorry, I just want to throw this in here before I forget. Sometimes when this happens in a show with, like, espionage or a plan or something, and somebody is added to the plan or something like that, and they're like, what? But then when you watch the plan unfold, you're like, how were they going to plan on doing that without this new element to the plan? So I kind of want to see if the plan makes any sense without Andor once we see it, because sometimes that happens in movies, like, just for dramatic effect. They're like, what? We have to add this in? And then you're like, well, how are you ever going to pull that off without him anyway? So, I mean, they were kind of saying that to begin with. They're like, well, this adds some redundancy. So I'm curious to see how Andor functions within this crew, and how the plan. I also love, that the guy actually has a physical model that he's, like, protective over on there. I thought that was cool. But That was beautiful.
I related
Xanthe.
so much to
Beautiful
him.
Thank you.
Beautiful playing, and I really love the I don't know, what do you think this like elicits in us in terms of like vibe and emotion and like because there's a lot of these types of sounds on this planet that are kind of open and beautiful.
Open's a good
with
word.
The drums
That's what I was
underneath,
gonna
you know.
say. It gives me this open landscape feeling. It's not active. It's just kind of showing us how vast and open this world of, or at least where they're hiding Aldani is. You know.
Yeah.
It also gives it does. Honestly, I know we joked Space Scotland, but it gives me that drone vibe,
Totally.
this kind of Highland feel,
Yes.
and you know, I'm happy that a bagpipe was not included, despite my undying love for bagpipes. But
But the violin is being
would be a little
used
too on
in a
the
sort
nose.
of bagpipe reminiscent way. Like in it, it could have
Yeah,
been
for sure.
Like it could have easily been like it could have been very violin-like, but instead it was very using like tones that are very open on the violin, like from literally open. And see how this D kind of ties over from bar to bar. It's just a drone, and that's another common thing in Andor so far is there will be a lot of just drones happening that hold for a long time, and then other notes will add on top of it. And this, it's not just on Aldani; it like happens in other places too. But so it's like a D drone, and then just very super simple, not flashy at all, just
Yeah.
rustic or something. The sound of
But
sunrise.
effective.
Yeah,
So
Lord of
where
the
is
Rings,
this? Does
Dark
anyone
Chalco.
know? Do you know where was this shot? These scenes? Does anyone know actually where they were shot?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm sure someone in chat knows. I don't know personally.
Because the first things that comes up when I like the autofill was Scotland. So maybe
Oh,
it's
so
people
literally.
but maybe it's not. Maybe it's just like people have been searching because it looks like Scotland.
Oh.
Yeah, but it looks like it says Andor's teams were based near the Chrysanthe Dam near Glasgow, Scotland.
Oh, okay.
Hey.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Everybody's spot on today, y'all. Everybody came to play. I love it.
Got
A touch of Lord of the Rings vibes too. It has vast journey vibes. Yeah.
For sure.
Vast journey. I
Yeah,
can
if they
hear
would
that.
have had like a solo violin over that scene, it would have been Rohan from the Howard Shore score. It would have been
For sure.
a Rohan thing.
For sure.
For sure.
Ooh, I hope we do hear some fiddle or something.
That would be cool.
Maybe. I'm interested to whatever Nicholas Bertel comes up with.
I mean, the sets and locations, it's mind-blowing how great this freaking show looks. It's like none of it looks quote-unquote TV level. Like it's all
Yeah.
looks like like it's a feature film we're watching. That's like the budget has spared no expense, it feels like. It's like kind of crazy how good it looks. I feel like, and I would venture to say, it's the best looking Star Wars show we've gotten.
I think
Period.
so.
Yeah. I would agree.
And I would say, even saying that there's some incredible moments in Mando, like the Crate Dragon, and I mean that's the one that sticks out. That scene is incredible. But I mean, when I think of the ones that are like next level visuals, that's the first one I think of. In Mando. But for this one, it feels like every scene is just like on point. There's like a couple of moments in Mando where I'm like, that kind of looks like a TV show, like the Bill Burr episode and in the first season, and kind of looks a little cheap. Not cheap, but just kind of little, looks kind of corny in some ways. Book of Boba Fett has a million moments like that to me. Obi-Wan
Zillion.
is like, Obi-Wan to me is an incredible show that basically is held back by the fact that it looks kind of corny the whole time. And this show is like, whoa, like what happened here? This is amazing, you know? So
Yeah, and I
that's
mean
my-
both not even like the technical, because there are many. It's the sets. It's not just the technical facility of bringing these things to life. It's like so clearly the costuming and the love that the artifacts are placed in. It's like the design of them. Not necessarily like sometimes we'll see shows or movies where it's like, oh, the VFX probably didn't have enough time to finish that shot totally. I even saw some of that in Dune, where I was like, okay, for as great as Dune looks, there's some parts that look unfinished almost, where like they ran out of time or something. So there's that aspect of it. But I mean, first of all, I don't see any. I'm not the most trained eye in terms of that, so maybe other people notice a lot of quote unquote mistakes or shoddy things, but I don't. But also, it just feels like they're real environments. I think that's just the main thing that matters, and it goes back to what Michael Giacchino said, where I'll put that image up, where I think he stated it really, really nicely, which was just that it looks. See.
Yeah.
I love Andor. Truthful, that's what it is. Huge congrats to Nick, Tony, Gilroy, and co. for creating an engaging and truthful corner of the Star Wars universe.
Hyper-realism.
It just feels natural that these people live there, that this is their environment. It doesn't feel put on. And so the complexity almost doesn't matter. It just feels real, and that's just something I can't think my way into it or out of it. I either feel it or I don't, and I feel it here.
Darth Jack.
How can you say the phrase "spared no expense" and not use John Hammond's voice from Jurassic Park?
Our lives are in our hands, and you have Butterfingers.
Dyad, is this Element 7? I think it's because when they started using stagecraft, they tried to overuse it. Andor has mixed stagecraft with on-location filming.
Yeah.
Jonah says,
Does it
ironic.
actually? It's using stagecraft? It's actually using it? I didn't know that they were using stagecraft for the
I'm
show.
sure there must be a few things that.
Yeah, I guess.
Stagecraft is the volume, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, the volume isn't necessarily, it's not necessarily bad. And the thing is, the more that the shows use it, the better that they'll get at it, and knowing exactly which shots are best for it. And I'm definitely down for that. Like, in a way, we've been seeing the volume newly at work, so we're seeing its very early development stages.
Yeah. It's promising for sure. Like, really promising.
Jonah says ironic because Gilroy wanted to use the volume.
Well, whatever they did, or whatever,
okay.
however it turned out, they're doing a great job. It just looks amazing. Coruscant scenes look incredible. Mon Mothma's apartment, which we really haven't talked about that stuff yet.
Oh my God.
That
Her
whole
husband
scene
needs
was
to go.
amazing. Yo, her husband is the worst.
I saw this tweet that was like, I think we all know where Mon Mothma's husband was on January 6th.
Ah!
Oh.
Or maybe that was a Facebook comment from Star Wars Minute Listener Society. But that was really
I loved her. I loved his, like, there's a rumor that you brought a present for me, and she's just immediately like, it's going back.
back.
It's going back.
Like, you screwed up. You screwed that one up. It's going back.
Yo, he is the worst.
the worst.
Dude, you know what's I just want to throw some speculation out there. Do you think we're gonna see the dinner party, and do we think Sly Moore is gonna be in this show?
Yeah. I think we're going to see
You
the
think
dinner
so?
party. I think we are.
Sorry, I won't. I was gonna say something, but you'll be annoyed if I say it. Not annoyed, but it's already foot in mouth. What am I doing?
Perrin is the new Tim.
I'm thinking.
I think Perrin is worse than Tim. But we didn't get to know Tim very much.
I do like the toxic, awful men in this show, and that Tim's already got his comeuppance, and I'm glad. Let's see where Perrin gets here. Yeah, dude, I hope she does get a divorce or gets a.
Arc is to get a divorce. Well, okay.
I mean, I don't know. Or he
knows?
or he gets
Shot.
But
Does everything,
everything
need
need-
boring and sad? I loved that line though, actually.
I did. But okay, so I mean, we did out of context. So on that guest list, it says she says there's Sly Moore, and there is what's his name? Ours Dengar, not Dengar, Dengar. Yeah, is that right? Which I believe ours is one of Palpatine's, kind of his, what would you call that? That group of people that's like in Return
Vizier?
of the Jedi. Those. Yeah. No, is that true? I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, one of Palpatine's close circle, right? And Sly Moore is like literally sitting next to Palpatine when he announces that he's the Emperor, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
right. One of those random viziers that we see in Return of the Jedi, and they just kind of bow and leave, and we don't know who the heck they are.
Yeah, those are
If you don't read the extra content.
Yeah. And so I just hope that it's so funny when Tony Gilroy is like, there's no cameos in this show, and
He doesn't know that
and
Star
there's
Group
just
has
something.
been just feeding him the right names. He's like, well, who would
Right.
be some political like dissident? Like, who would
Right.
be politically interesting?
And there's like some deep, nerdy cuts in this show, which is hilarious. It's like Tony Gilroy every week is like, there's no fan service, there's nothing in like and then like in this episode,
Story
it's
group's,
like,
like, winking.
here's something, here's something from KOTOR, here's something from Force Unleashed, here's like a freaking Gungan shield. It's like Tony Gilroy has no idea how nerdy his show actually is.
Yeah, and Sly Moore is like can kind of read minds, so that will be
Right,
interesting
she's force
to see.
sensitive, right?
Exactly. Sly Moore is the bald Baron next to Palpatine.
Oh man, I
and
hope that
Samita.
she's in this show. I think that would just be such a. It would remind me of the dinner scene in like Inglourious Bastards, right?
Vaguely, I vaguely remember that.
Where there's like, there's people on all sides and they're trying to keep their cool and smile through their teeth and kind of not give away. So I'm very curious.
Hey,
I'm really
chat
excited about
predictions. If there is a dinner scene, what do you think the music will be like? And what do you think? What sounds do you think will stand out?
That's interesting. It's gonna
I
sound
think
like
we'll get-
Wagner.
I think we'll get Wagner. I think there will be like a lot of silence, and I think there will be like drones, if anything.
Mongol.
They need dinner party music,
Yeah, they have a lounge singer. We have some diegetic like pop song.
She's just making the
Jedi
rounds to
rocks,
all these
making its
nefarious
debut.
dinner parties.
Justin, what do you think?
The music for the dinner
Snoodle
party.
singing.
The music or the sound?
Wow.
I hope there's like a galactic harp in the background or something like that. Just something so like stereotypically rich, like wealthy.
Oh.
Like it's like
Yeah.
like some galactic harp and a flute or something like that. It's just something so like stereotypically high class.
Snooty.
Yeah.
Snoodly.
Snooty playing the flutie.
Justin, I would love that. Like at least not. I don't know if I would want that during the dinner itself because I'm hoping that the dinner, if we get to see it, is mostly quiet because I
Justin.
want like the dialogue. I want the awkwardness of that. But I think it'd be cool, like in the entrance of their home or something, like when people are entering, to have like a pre-cocktail or something, string quartet or Star Wars version of that.
right.
Oh, I would really love to see what that would look
How
like.
funny
Because
would that be?
as
Star Wars string quartet. There's like spacey violins there.
oh yeah, because I've done that so many times. That would be like that would be like
Exactly.
if I were in Star Wars, the amount
Yeah.
of
What if they really nail it right? They'll give us a scene of the string quartet leaving the gig and going back to their tiny apartments. After they just played like some ritzy mansion, they're like, "Hey, we're part of the crowd tonight," and then they're like back in their crappy Coruscant apartment later on.
totally at the
Or a
at the
wonderful
door
scene
of
of
their
Like
them.
house.
that is
Yeah, at the door of
Yeah.
Mon Mothma's house, like the musicians all have to change into like a different like costume,
Yeah.
like out of their kind
Yep.
of trashy like clothes.
they
Or
get their
then-
dress shoes at like the version of TJ Maxx in Star Wars.
Yeah.
My first
than
thought
just,
was a
you know,
low
do-
synth. That sounds kind of tense, but that's my stereotypical answer. I'm with you, Jonah. I'm with you.
Yeah, that'd be cool, but like kind of eerie, right?
I see it starting whimsical, then going minor key with a steady drum that increases in intensity throughout. I can see that.
So do we think are y'all thinking that that is like the score of the scene, or are y'all thinking that's like what the background diegetic music of the party is? Because I
think
could see
everyone's
it.
talking
I could,
about it, the score.
I'm hoping
the
for,
score.
like, a
Okay,
diegetic
yeah, I
music,
agree with
though.
that. So I think there's
want
there's
diegetic
probably going to be
music.
two different sounds. We're probably going to get music at the party, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll probably kind of transition that into score, right?
Yeah.
So
That's what I think. Yeah. Sort of like when the
what if it's the drummer from episode 2 is there and he's just playing rock drums? He's like, "Ba, ba, doo, ba, boo, ba, boo, ba, boo, ba." Yeah.
yeah, with animal like looking like
Someone just
Animal
goes
from
over
the
there with
Muppets.
some credits and just like drops the credit on the drum, just like, you can stop now. Goes back to dinner.
So sound
Can
design
someone
wise,
remind me? Was Max Rebo a Muppet in Book of Boba Fett? Like an actual Muppet?
I think it was a puppet.
I think he
It
was,
was,
but
right?
I'm not sure for
Yeah.
sure.
So, do you think we're gonna get puppets in the show at all, or is this like a not puppet show, or like practical puppet type aliens? What do you think?
I honestly.
What if it's Max Rebo? Maybe they get Max Rebo for the party.
That's why I thought about it. I was like, what if Max? But I was like, they wouldn't put a puppet in this show. This is like a
Max
no
just needs
puppets
to be
allowed show.
somewhere in every show. Every show needs Max Rebo, just somewhere.
But just a glimpse.
I think that should
like,
be a
just out of the corner-
reoccurring Star Wars thing.
out of the corner of your eye.
Like,
Okay, so
you
one.
need two things: the Wilhelm scream and Max Rebo.
I think we could get interesting sounds if we get this dinner as well. Like, assuming if it is mostly silent or just very minimal, I feel like to increase the awkwardness, the tension and stuff, I can imagine things like fabric folding over or just like little nudges or things could be, those little subtle power plays. Like I'm going to put my fork here and then someone else like just moves the fork or something. Just like little things like that. Rich people stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so cool. Do you think there's going to be a record scratch moment at the party?
Yes, I
Do you think there's going to be something said that's like everybody goes quiet? And then
See, that's what I was
gonna have to
thinking.
be
Like,
like,
maybe they're.
I love the Empire, actually.
Right. We love
that's
what
what
do you
I
think
was
from
gonna
Cody?
say,
We love
like-
the Empire. It's good to meet like-minded
Yeah, where-
folk.
What were you saying,
Yeah.
Justin?
I was just gonna agree. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would oh, Rebo's a guy in a suit. Okay, gotcha. Got it.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
He's kind of like yeah. It's like the,
the
big
last-
bird of Star Wars.
the big bird of Star Wars. We did get some speeders. That is another exciting sound that we got in this episode.
Yes, we did.
I think we got some bleeding goats. I don't know. I heard some like, the goats.
I
or
thought
the-
it was like it sounded like a ram, like and a horse combined or something like that. I could have sworn
Whoa.
there was a horse whinny in there, but
Yeah. Well
rams
done.
have like a deeper sound, and it really reminded me of like rams.
And we didn't see those animals, right? We just
No, I
heard
think we
them.
did.
We did. They had
We
like
did?
8 horns. It was great.
Oh, really?
It was
Oh,
like,
I think
yeah.
they
it's
just
don't
like a
remember.
sort
stuck
of a
some
wide
helmet,
shot.
like 8-horn helmets on some sheep.
Oh my gosh, Chaco. What his parent announces that he also wants to run for some type of office.
Oh, that's a
At
good
the
point,
party,
right?
he
Or if
announces his
or
candidacy.
if he gets if he gets some like maybe if one of those Imperials are like, hey, maybe you should come and work in our offices a little bit more or something like that, right?
I feel so bad for Mon Mothma. Like, I like seeing this other side of her in this show because after reading The Princess and the Scoundrel, my opinion of Mon Mothma went down a little bit, and so now it's going back. Now I'm getting more into Mon Mothma land, so trying to understand her. She
There's
cannot.
a super cut of all of her scenes from all of Star Wars, and there's a couple scenes in the early seasons of Clone Wars where she's like just in the background, like she's just like a background.
hovering?
Like they just put Mon Mothma in there walking around the Senate just to like And so it's funny when you watch this clip, like the first couple clips are just like, you're like, hey, that's Mon Mothma in the background, right? And then she slowly gets more important, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting cut.
The look on her face when she's just leaving, the shop, and she just like unbuttons her like collar. Oh my God. In that moment, I'm like,
That's so cool.
oh my God, I feel her, like, very effective, like, directing there, for one. Like, you just feel how much weight is on her shoulders and just how she cannot relax, ever. Not even at home. Like,
Not at home. Yo, Alex from Star Wars Explained had a video recently that was just like such a great breakdown of like Mon Mothma's emotional like state within her relationship and within her. It's like he has a great take on this whole thing. How she like can't relax at home because her husband won't let her relax because he insists that she relax, if that makes sense, right? Like, and not be stressed out, so she basically can't have the support that she needs. And so she can't escape from the tension anywhere in her life, right? And I think what you said about Xanthe about Luthen was really interesting because about him putting on his face in his, putting on that mask inside his ship. How the music is just so sad. You can just feel the sadness from everyone. They're just like this. It's like they're so hopeless, but they're still just trying, It's like everyone is under this feeling of just like, it's just like everything sucks right now,
like they're trying to carry on in their lives, but there's such a huge shadow that looms over, and they're trying to keep up. They know that the veil is going to fall at some point soon, probably, but they're trying as best as they can. What this reminds me of most probably is the novels that take place like around this period, or in this kind of decade span. I think about like the Leia, I can't remember which book or books, but sort of the book where like Leia is growing up and she's learning how to be like an Alderaanian princess or whatever, but like, and her parents are kind of distant, but like we know like her parents are trying to organize the rebellion and stuff, so they're trying to be like parents, but there's this kind of shadow where like Leia's trying to have like, she's having formative, teenage experiences, training for stuff, but like there's always these conversations that happen behind closed doors in those books. And it's just this, we know they're not gonna be able to keep up this artifice, this sort of two-faced, organizing the rebellion, but showing up as as senators for very long. And so we're kind of just watching probably the kind of last remaining threads of being able to hold on to that visage.
Right.
It's so tense.
For some reason, Mon Mothma, I feel like I like remembered her being in A New Hope, and she's not. Like I went to, like I said, I watched that super cut of all of her scenes recently, and it didn't even occur to me that she's not in that movie, because for some reason I just imagined her there. Return of the Jedi. She gives the brief. She gives the brief, and that's like her first film appearance.
Yeah, I definitely didn't realize that either, because I think of the original trilogy. It blends together some of the points.
Right. And she doesn't really appear until Return of the Jedi, and gives that. I have to say, casting is like spot on.
I know.
With Genevieve O'Reilly.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And all the casting is insane.
Casting is so amazing. And direction, because good actors need to be directed. Anyway,
it's good. It's good stuff going on in this. Yeah, we like the show a lot.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I guess we can wrap up, unless anyone else has a final thing to say. Darth Chaco says that Leia, Princess of Alderaan, and Rebel Rising happened at this time. Thank you. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No, I'm just excited for this next episode.
Yeah.
I'm just so excited.
Excited.
Me too.
It's been a while. Excited. Not just like, oh yeah, new episode, but like, let's go. I want to see the rest.
Yeah. Yeah. James,
Fun
you look like
stuff.
you were about to say something.
I don't know. I feel like there's more to say about this. There's just so much packed into
There's
these
so much.
episodes, but
Yeah.
but I don't, you know,
Yeah.
I think that's good.
I hope we
think that's
see the
good, y'all.
meteor shower or the Eye of Aldani.
Oh.
I hope we get to see that next episode.
Same.
The
You
recurrent
think it'll
band of
happen next
crystallized
episode?
Noctilucent
I think
feel like
I
they'll-
think it'll be a few episodes.
Really?
I think they're
Because it's
building
like
up to it.
it's happening
One or
soon,
two.
but I guess we don't know how.
Right.
We'll see.
I feel like next episode is gonna be like the party, and like the beginning of their mission. That's my my prediction is like we're gonna see the dinner party and we're gonna see them start their mission, and then something might happen in the middle of their mission that makes it exciting or scary, and then they're gonna cut, and then we'll see the rest of it the week after. That's what I think. That's my prediction.
I think we'll
We will
get
see.
up to the beginning of the mission, and we're like, here it is, and then then
Oh,
we'll get
that's
the credits.
yeah, right.
I think that's what they're gonna do.
Well, look forward to seeing whatever it is. Yeah.
that'd be great.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We'll be back again next Sunday.
Triangle.
Triangle. Yeah.
Listen
pay
for
attention the
Triangle and
triangle.
Dedra, okay?
Yes.
Find the
Everyone
triangle.
remember, when you're watching, and then when you hear it, be like, James was right. Tell your sister she was right about the triangle being in Dedra's scenes.
And then also keep an ear out for this descending kind of minor scale, and keep an ear out for the sad lo-fi vibes.
Vibes and
Little
space elephants.
Space
Don't forget about those
elephants.
space elephants.
And if we hear any more imperial sort of chord progression thing, yeah, lots to listen out for. We'll see you back here next weekend, and yeah, Band Batch is out. May the force
Band
be with
Batch
you.
out.
Watch out.
Oh wait, we should play some music.